Hashem, today going to do Daf Lamed Vav Amud Bet. Right now we're on the bottom of Daf Lamed Vav Amud Aleph, where it says Amar Rava. First we're on the line, 5-6 lines from the bottom.
Yeah.
So Amar Rava. Hilchata Kavate de Reish Lakish Bahanitlat. So Rava says Halacha follows Reish Lakish with these three things that he has a machloke with Rabbi Yochanan. Halacha is like Reish Lakish. These three cases. Chada, Hada Amaran. One of them is that which we said. We had a whole page of a machloket, Reish Lakish, Rabbi Yochanan, whether Biyat Chalitzat Meuberet Shma Chalitza, and also according to some of the machloket is also Biyad Meuberet Shma Biyah, except for according to Abai. But on that machloket, we said halacha is like Reish Lakish, that if somebody does Yibum or Chalitza to a lady and it turns out that she's pregnant, she requires a new Yibum or Chalitza. That didn't accomplish anything. That's one. Idach, another case that we follow Reish Lakish like over Rabbi Yochanan is the following. Titnan. You have it says in the Mishnah, the Gemara is going to quote the Mishnah and then say the Machlok Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan. So, Detan, Hamchalek nechasav al piv. Somebody who's older. Boker Tov.
We just start.
Yeah. So somebody who's older, who's slowly coming to the end of his life, and he wants to give away his things to his children. So he's being mechalek nechasav al piv. He's dividing his nechasim, his items that he owns. Al piv, he's telling the children, listen, you take this, you take this, you take this. So ribe leechad umied leechad v'hishve lahem et habechor. He gave Lamed Vav Amud Aleph. So he gives one kid a lot and one kid a little bit less, and the Bechor he gives equivalent amount. He's not following the rules of Yerusha. So Dvarav Kayamin. His words it works. His Dvarav are Kayamin. What he says goes. Why? Because he gave it as a matana. Person could give a matana when he's alive. If he says, I'm going to give you this, I'm giving you this, and I'm giving you this, that's a matana. V'im amar lehem mishum Yerusha. But if he says, this is your Yerusha, this is your Yerusha, this is your Yerusha, lo amar klum, that doesn't mean anything, because the Torah already tells us what the Yerusha is. The Torah says that the Bechor gets a double portion as a Yerusha, and everybody else gets the equivalent portion. So if he starts changing things around and saying, this is your Yerusha, this is your Yerusha, this is your Yerusha, that means nothing. But if he says, take this as a matana, this is a matana, this is a matana that I'm giving you, that's fine. So now, Katav, if he wrote down, or the truth is even if he said, according to many Rishonim, Bein betchila, bein besof, bein beemtza, mishum matana. If he anywhere wrote that the word matana, even though it says in it Yerusha, but he wrote the word matana also, then it's viewed as a gift, and dvarav kayamim. So if he wrote it in the beginning, or in the middle, or in the end, meaning he said, this is a matana that you're going to have as a Yerusha, that's fine. Or if he says, your Yerusha, I'm giving you this is a matana, that's fine. Because he used the word matana, he inserted it in there. Even if it's in the middle, which means he wrote Yerusha, and in between it he wrote matana. So he said, for your Yerusha, I'm giving you this as a matana, that's going to be your Yerusha, that's fine. As long as he inserted the word matana, that's fine. So that's the Mishnah. Now, where does Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish come in? So, it says, V'amar Reish Lakish, next top of Lamed Vav Bet, Leolam lo kana ad sheomar ploni uploni yarshu sedeh ploni uplonit shentanam lahem b'matana v'yarshu. So Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan have the following machloket. Let's say a person is giving to two sons. So to one son he uses the word Yerusha, and to the other son he uses the word matana. Okay, so he's writing a shtar for two of his sons, or he's telling two of his sons. He says, listen, for you, Ruvain, I'm going to give you a matana, this house and this field and this property. And for you, Shimon, your Yerusha is going to be that house and that field and that property.
The word is different.
Yeah, so meaning we say anything that's matana is good, anything that's Yerusha is not good. Rabbi Yochanan says, listen, since he's saying everything together, and he said the word matana for one child, okay, so that means you could tell that he means matana for both children. Reish Lakish says no, he has to say the word matana for both children. He cannot say, if he says matana for one and Yerusha for one, so with the kid that he said matana for, okay, that's fine. That this dvarav kayamim for that child.
You're gonna probably the Yerusha word.
Yeah, because
you have to divide it with both of them again. No. Yerusha.
Whatever he used the word Yerusha, and he did not according to halachot of Yerusha, that doesn't do anything. So if he gives a matana, he could give a matana. But
matana I understand. But if you give matana before, when you write the will these days, okay? You said to the guy, to the lawyer, I want to give this one a little bit more because I give that one before, this one that. Okay, give him some gift as a gift to them. Then put everything as a Yerusha. But by Yerusha, that means we're going to go everything according to whatever the paper says.
So he's writing in the paper. He's saying the guy owns a number of different properties. Yeah. So he says, Reuven, I'm giving you this building, this building, this building as a matana. Shimon, your Yerusha is this building, this building, this building. Okay, that's what he did. That's what he wrote down. So that's where Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish have a machloket. Rabbi Yochanan says, since he used the word matana for one, that shows that he means also that he's giving a matana to the other one as well, and everything counts as a matana, and it's all good. Reish Lakish says no. For the child that he used the word matana, that's great. That's a matana. For the child that he used the word Yerusha, we don't view that as a matana. We view that as a Yerusha, and that needs to be treated with the halachot of Yerusha of the Torah, because he didn't give it as a matana.
That means
so
the other son is going to get some of the Yerusha too.
Yeah. Reish Lakish says, now let's read it. Reish Lakish, leolam lo kana, that second child is not kone ad sheyomar, unless the father says that ploni uploni, you Reuven and you Shimon, my two children, yarshu sadeh ploni uploni, you're gonna get this field and that field. Shenatatim lahem, he has to use the word netina, like matana b'matana v'yarshum, and then they're yoresh it, and then they could take it. So that's the second case where we paskin like Rabbi Yochanan. So one was the chalitza done to a pregnant lady doesn't mean anything. It's not a valid chalitza. Second case where we paskin like Reish Lakish. Second case where we paskin like Reish Lakish is this: that if he says to one child matana and one child Yerusha, it's not enough. He has to say Yerusha and name both children, matana and name both children in order for it to be a valid matana. Okay, ve'idach, and the last case that we were saying over here that we paskin like Reish Lakish, titanan hakotev kol nechasav livno. So somebody, he writes that all of his items, all of his assets should go to his child after he dies. Okay, so Rashi says it's from now after he dies. Rashi shekadev mehayom ulachar mita. He says from now after I die. So ha'av eno yachol limkor. The father cannot sell any of those assets, any of those fields. Because it's kind of like almost like an escrow or whatever. It's waiting to be given over to the son. It's reserved for the son for after he dies. It's going to be belong to the son from the beginning. But the son cannot sell it either because it's in the reshut of the father. The father is still alive. And the father said, once I die, it's going to belong to the son, retroactively. So now, machar ha'av, if the father sold, meaning, if the father sold, so mechurin, it's sold ad sheyamut hu, until he dies. Now, what does that mean? It means, just a background, there's something called kinyan perot. In this stage where the father sells the field, or whatever, he gives the field to his son, but he says it's going to belong to you from mehayom ulachar mita, from now, but after I die. So when the father gives over the field to the son, he can no longer sell the actual field, but what he has is called kinyan perot. The father he has the rights to what the field produces. So all of the fruits and the whatever is yielded by the field belongs to the father in the time being until he passes away. So he has what's called a kinyan perot. He doesn't have a kinyan haguf. He doesn't own the goof of the field to be able to sell it, because that's been given over to his son once the father dies retroactively. What he has is a kinyan perot. So if he sells the field, quote unquote, what he's selling is the rights to the fruits of the field. So if the father sells the field, he's selling the rights of the fruit, and mechurin, that's sold ad sheyamutu, until the father dies. So if the father said, Reuven, my son, I'm giving you this field for after I die, from now. So in the interim, the father is eating the fruits of the field, and if he sells the field to somebody else, what that means is he's selling the rights to the fruits of the field. Okay, so machar haben, and that person who he sells it to can benefit from the fruits of the field until the father dies, because once the father dies, everything belongs to the son now. Machar haben, if the son sold it, en lelokeach klum ad she'yamut ha'av. The buyer doesn't have anything, because what's the son selling? The son doesn't have the field yet because his father is still alive, and he doesn't have the fruits because his father has a kinyan on the fruits. So the son can't sell anything, but once the father dies, then it goes through the son to the guy that he sold it to. So the son sells it to some guy, we'll call him Shimon. The son sells it to some guy, Shimon. So when the father dies, then the field goes through the son to that guy, Shimon. Now, the machloket is like this. Veitma. Machar haben b'chayav, umet haben b'chayav. Let's say the father sold, the son sold the field when the father was alive. And then the son died first, and then the father died. So we said, if the son sold the field, and then the father died, okay, so the field goes through the son to the buyer. But in this case, the son sold the field, and then he died first, and then the father died. So do we also say that it goes to the buyer after, at the end of the day, they both die, or no? That's machloket Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan. So in machar haben b'chayav, umet haben b'chayav, Rabbi Yochanan amar lo kana lokeach. Rabbi Yochanan says that the seller doesn't acquire anything. Reish Lakish amar kana lokeach. Reish Lakish says no, the seller does get it at the end, after they both die. Meaning the son dies first and then the father dies. Still, says Reish Lakish, the seller gets it at the end.
The seller or the buyer?
I mean the buyer. The buyer gets it at the end. Rabbi Yochanan amar lo kana lokeach. Rabbi Yochanan says the buyer doesn't get it at the end, because kinyan perot ki kinyan aguf dami. The father who had the rights to the fruit, that causes it that it can like stop the transaction from going through. Meaning his kinyan perot blocks the transaction from going through, and it's like when the son sold it and the son died, that sale never happened because the father had the rights to the kinyan perot, and that blocked the sale from going through. Reish Lakish amar kana lokeach. Reish Lakish holds that no, the buyer does get it, because kinyan perot lav ki kinyan aguf dami. He holds that the kinyan of the fruits that the father has is not enough to block the transaction from going through. It's not like the father has a zechut in the land to be able to block the transaction from going through. He just owns the fruits. Okay, so let's continue. Okay, ein avlat shel kayama. So we said in the Mishnah that if in a case where someone did yibum to a lady and she ended up being pregnant, so if the child did not make it, we said that they can continue being together. It was a machloket Reish Lakish Rabbi Yochanan whether she needs to do a new yibum to be together or not, but they can continue being together. And if the child doesn't make it, then if the child doesn't make it, they can continue being together. If the child makes it, then they have to get divorced. So Ta'ana Mishum Rabbi Eliezer, Amru Yotzi Beget. In the case where they have to get divorced, where the child is a living child, so Sorry. sorry. Rabbi Eliezer is arguing. Yeah, Rashi point. Sorry. We said we're talking about a case where the child doesn't make it, right? When the child doesn't make it, then we said in the Mishnah.
The Yevamot is good.
Well, we said in the Mishnah is a machlok Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan whether the yibum is good, but we said in the Mishnah that they can stay together. Now, according to Rabbi Yochanan, that means he doesn't even need a new yibum. According to Reish Lakish, that means he needs a new action of yibum. But either way, they don't have to get divorced. They could stay together.
He did once, yeah.
Yeah, but she was pregnant, so that was a machlok Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan. Either way. What's it called? According to our Mishnah, they're allowed to stay together. Rabbi Eliezer is arguing with our Mishnah, and he says Yotzi beget. He has to divorce her with a get. So Amar Rava, Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Eliezer, Amru Davar Echad. Rava says Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Eliezer, they hold the same way. Rabbi Eliezer had Amar, and Rabbi Eliezer said like what we just said, that the guy Rabbi Eliezer basically holds, since he did yibum in a case where he's not supposed to. He did a mistake, and he was negligent when it came to marrying the woman. He should married somebody who he shouldn't have married. So we tell him, it's a knas, you're finished, you're done, you have to give a get. So the Gemara wants to say that Rabbi Meir says, Rava wants to say Rabbi Meir says the same. Rabbi Meir holds the same thing. Damar, Rabbi Meir, what does Rabbi Meir say? So we're going to get more into this halacha later on in a few dapim, but there's a halacha that a person cannot marry if a woman, her husband died or she got divorced and she's pregnant or nursing, she's not allowed to get married to, somebody's not allowed to marry her. Not allowed to marry a pregnant or nursing woman.
What do you Anybody?
Yes, anybody. A woman who's divorced and she's pregnant or nursing, you have to wait for her to finish.
Finish what?
With her pregnancy or nursing.
What's the term of nursing?
Means she's...
Pregnancy, I understand 9 months. Okay.
Yeah.
But
what? How many days? 2 years, 24 months.
She has to be alone for 24 months?
Yes, simply. But we're going to get to the sugya a little bit later and the details of the sugya.
It's for the guy's benefit.
We're gonna see in the Gemara. No, we're gonna see in the Gemara later on what the reason are. No, so we're gonna see in the Gemara later on what the reasons are. There are a lot of tshuvas about this of ladies who, she doesn't have money to support, and the guy's offering her, and she's within the term of nursing, but she stopped actively nursing. Is that good enough? Is it not good enough? She's giving formula, whatever it is. The kid is eating real food also in addition to the nursing. There are a lot of different tshuvas written. We'll maybe talk about it a little bit more when we get to the correct sugya. This is just mentioned in passing here. So, V'im nasa yotzi v'lo yachzir olamit divrei Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir holds if a guy did this, he married a nursing woman, he's yotzi, he has to divorce her, and lo yachzir olamit, and he's not allowed to take her back ever again. Because Rabbi Meir says, because the kanas, we told you you're not allowed to do this, and you did it. We're making a kanas on you.
And you force you to get.
Yes. Chachamim אומרים יוציא ולכשיגיע זמנו לכנוס יכנוס. Chachamim say yotzi has to divorce, and when the time comes to come together, when the time comes after her term is over, after the 24 months, then you can marry her. So you see, Rabbi Meir seems to be like Rabbi Eliezer, because Rabbi Eliezer said by our case, if he did yibum to a woman who was pregnant, you weren't supposed to do it, so that's it, you're finished. Even if the baby doesn't end up living, it doesn't matter. You can't be, you're done. You have to divorce her. So Amalei Abaye said to Rava, not necessarily do they hold the same. Mimai dilma lohi. Maybe it's not the same. Arkan lo kama Rabbi Eliezer hacha elimishum de kapaga beisur eshet ach deoraita. Maybe Rabbi Eliezer is only so strict that he says no, they have to give a get because it's isur deoraita eshet ach. Aval hatam derabanan karabanan svir ale. But maybe over there that it's only derabanan to marry the nursing lady. So he holds like the Chachamim. Maybe Rabbi Eliezer holds like the Chachamim over there, that he could take her after the term. Inami, or Arkan lo kama Rabbi Meir hatam el mishum derabanan. V'chamim asu chizuk l'divrehem. Maybe Rabbi Meir is only so strict by the guy marrying a nursing woman because it's derabanan, it's an isur derabanan, and we find by isur derabanan Chachamim were more strict. Yoter Mishel Torah, Chachamim were more strict to give it more validity because people tend to treat it a little bit lighter. So Chachamim are sometimes more strict with the derabanans. Avalacham deoraita refresh parshimine. But in this case, that is deoraita. In the case of eshedach, in the case of yibum, that it's deoraita, we don't need to make a knas that he's not allowed to be with her anymore, because generally a person would treat a deoraita more seriously on his own. Amar Rava uldivrei chachamim yotzi beget, and Rava said, according to chachamim, where in the case where he married a pregnant woman or a nursing woman, he has to divorce her with a get. Not just separate with her and go back afterwards. He has to actually give her a get and take her back. So Amar Marzutra dekanami dektani yotzi v'loktani yafrish. Also it says yotzi, not yafrish. Shma mina, we hear from that what's it called? That he has to give an actual get. Okay, we'll stop here for a little bit.
Right.
I just have